Hello and welcome to another session of character modeling with me, Steve Moore, aka S'more. And this week we're going to I want to show you guys how we can take a garment we've made in Marvelous Designer and get some game res topology out of it. And to be specific, we want geometry that we could actually deliver to a rig, that we could animate. And so that's what I want to talk about this session. So to begin, right now I've got the particle distance set to 5. So we've got, nice looking folds and stuff. It's pretty high res. But what we really want, obviously, is something that's a little lower res. So as you might have guessed straight out of the gate, what we're going to do is take our various garment elements here, and we're going to take the particle distance back up to about 20, right? And that's going to affect things noticeably. You can see it's a lot lower res now. So that's the first step, right? But as you're going to see in a moment, the geometry you get out of Marvelous Designer is not great for animating. It's not great for rig. So how are we going to deal with that? Just to keep things simple, I'm not going to export everything. And you know what? I'm going to get rid of some of the stuff. So we don't actually need the zippers. We can get rid of the zippers. This is our remember this is our low res version. That stuff we could just bake, right? We can bake that in the normal map. So we can get that from the high res version and just blow. So we'll just blow this stuff away here. So now we just have a more basic version of it. And I'm going to focus on the main jacket. So we're going to leave off the cuffs. I'm going to leave off the cuffs and the belt section and just kind of export the body of the jacket, right? Okay, so here goes. So we've dialed down the resolution. I'm going to go, and we're going to go up to the context menu and 3D garment. And once again, we're going to quadrate. So now we're ready to export. So we're going to export OBJ selected. And let's call this demo jacket low source. Cool. That takes a minute. Now when the export options come up, what we're looking for is single object, and we want to weld those parts. And yes, we want to keep it thin. And click OK. Sweet. So here we are in ZBrush again. Let's go and import our little jacket mesh from ZBrush, Marvelous Designer here. And let's take a look at this. All right. So at first glance looks okay. But when we turn on the polyframe, you can see it's a bit of a mess, right? We've got 5-sided patches all over the place. Yeah, it's chaotic. There's some areas that look all right, like, got some nice, evenly spaced loops here, but then they just kind of disappear into this milieu there, So what we want is evenly spaced loops all the way across the torso. We want concentric loops running down the length of the arm, the shoulder, into the torso here, right? We really want loops that even kind of go into the torso a bit, because when the character raises their arm, this whole area is going to flex and move. It can move up and down, and don't forget your shoulders can move forwards and backwards too. So this is an area of a lot of movement, and riggers like nice evenly spaced loops in those areas, including the elbows. You can get the elbows, it's only got one axis of movement, so you can get away with a little bit more. I mean, generally you should have evenly spaced loops here, and you may even focus in topology on the back of the elbow so that there's something to kind of hold the form when it closes. So that's what we need to do, right, with this mesh. And the way we're going to get there is something called, we're going to use ZRemesh in conjunction with ZRemesh guides here. So this little cube with the dotted lines on it is a ZRemesh guide tool. Before we do that, there's one little tweak I want to make to this. I'm going to copy it, right? I'm going to copy our jacket here. And I just want to clean up the elbows for the purposes of remeshing, because this is going to be a bit problematic. So all I'm going to do is go in there and with a smooth brush, just iron out some of that crease there. No worries, we can reproject it after we've got our loops where we want them, right? But that's just going to make it a little cleaner when we remesh. Okay. Now back to the ZRemesh guide tool. Want to you don't want to brush too. The brush size of the brush is going to correspond to the number of segments in our when we draw our curve. The smaller brush will give us more segments. You don't want it too small, and you don't want it too big. Too big and it doesn't capture the topology properly. Too small and the curve can go wonky in a hurry. So we'll try about there, and let's get started. We're going to draw a curve around our shoulder here. There we go, first one. And then we're going to draw the next curve further down, right? And you'll notice that I've kind of got it fanning out. It's tighter in the armpit and wider across the top of the shoulder. And that's because this area has to compress whilst this area has to expand, right? So therefore the loops need to kind of compress a bit at the armpit. So now moving down, let's take a look at our elbow here. Same dealio. Let's draw a loop around here. So we're telling ZBrush that we want loops. We want the loops to flow in this direction, not in this chaotic kind of random direction. All right, so again, on the other side of the elbow, do the same thing. And for good measure, because also remember that your arm shears, your wrist twists, the whole forearm can twist. So let's make sure that we keep concentric loops all the way down the length of the arm by applying another guide there. And if I didn't mention it before, should have symmetry on here, so you save yourself drawing these curves twice, right? Okay, so far so good. Cool. All right, and now let's take a look at ZRemesh. So the target polyp count is it's an approximate. I believe the number 5 is like 5,000. It's in units of 1,000, but it's very approximate. So let's dial it down to 1. So it's going to be approximately 1,000. I expect it to be more like 2, but here we go, and we're going to hit ZRemesh. Oh man, I'm happy with that. So if you can see, and we'll take this into Maya in a minute to confirm it, you see these nice concentric loops, right? Wrapping around the shoulder, evenly spaced loops across the torso, concentric loops at the elbow, all the way down to the arm. That makes me so happy I want to cry, because I am so used to doing this stuff by hand. So this is way better. As our models get denser and denser, as technology improves, we've got to have ways to do this stuff automatically. And I think I'm quite happy with the ZRemesh guide tool, and ZRemesh is pretty cool. You may want to tweak stuff a little bit, but I think that's a pretty good start. And let's just take a quick look in Maya at this, closer look at the topology. So we'll export off another OBJ. I'll call this one remeshed. Okay, so in Maya, and the only reason we're in Maya is just I wanted to take a closer look at this geo, and Maya's a good place to do that, right? So yeah, so this is looking pretty tidy. I would say it's not perfect, right? It's gonna be a little bit of cleanup involved, but this is a hell of a lot easier than doing things by hand, right? So if we take a quick look here at our loops, You know, this is what we want, right? You want, whoopsie. You know, I'm just highlighting the joint here where having these concentric loops is critical, right? This is the area, as I mentioned before, that it's got to flex all the way from here, you know, into here. You want these loops to be concentric. Now, I think I will admit that it's gone a little haywire down here, but still, for the most part, you can say that it's, for the most part, it's, you know, you've got nice, you can see nice concentric loops, and it's just down here that I'm gonna have to clean it up a little bit, right? You can see that, like, I just want that to kind of, you would get away with that, you know, that area there is okay. The main thing is, you know, from here, you know, they're all the way there in the shoulder, that this whole area can flex up and down, forwards and backwards. So this area, not super critical, but I would want to clean that up and make that also just a continuous loop. Taking a look at the elbows. Yep, nice concentric loops. Very happy about that, right? So I like to color code my joints, you know, just to kind of, there you go. And of course, forearms as well. They're looking good. So there you go. So that's ZRemesh and ZGuides. Before I leave you, I had mentioned, like, hey, I cleaned up the elbow a little bit, you know, so I could get these nice clean loops here, but we lost some of the form. So not to worry, right? So this is, let me just call this remesh so I don't forget. Remesh. And this is our original. So if I go before, after, I did lose a little bit of volume there. So, I mean, to fix that, that's easy enough. You just turn on transparency, go back to the new mesh here. I like to throw a layer on and find, what you want to find is Z project, which is right here. And then holding the Alt key down so I can pull the geo out, right? Because it's kind of hiding inside. And I'll kind of try to follow the actual existing loops when I do this, right? Rather than just kind of randomly brush, just being cognizant of where are the loops. So you got a better chance of not getting them all wonky, right? And there we go. We'll just kind of reintroduce some of that form back into our new mesh. And Bob's your auntie, man. Yeah. So there you go. So, you know, of course you can go back a little. You can go back and forward on this stuff. But keeping, so now we've got now we've reintroduced our form kind of back in there. It's not as wonky, matching the, you know, the original closer there. You get the idea. There you go. So a quick way to get your low-res geometry without a lot of fussing around with, you know, well, the modeling toolkit in Maya or TopoGun or whatever. Yeah, I think this is the way to go for me anyway. So with that, I'll say, you know, happy modeling. Until next time, adieu.